Hey guys, this is Jeff with Stone Off Road. I want to do a video here on an install that we're currently doing on a JK clock spring. This particular JK is a 2008. The reason I wanted to do this video is because it's a bit involved, a little more involved than I would have thought it would have been, and I've had a lot of people ask me about it. So I'm going to go ahead and get to it. As you can see, I've got the new clock spring and the old clock spring. Other than the part number differences, there's no physical difference, just nothing visible that's any different between the two. I know Chrysler supposedly made this one a little more durable when it comes to getting water in the dash, but I guess we'll find that out later. As far as the uninstall, I'll go over that as I reinstall. It's really not that difficult to get everything uninstalled. It's just pull the wheel off is basically the most tasking part of this. As you can see on the steering column, that little dot right there indicates what your true center of your wheel is supposed to be when it's, straight up. As you guys know, if you have bigger tires, lifts, whatever, getting a true zero on your steering is sometimes impossible. But just get it, when you pull the wheel off, make sure it's as close to center as you can possibly get it. That's one of the most important steps. The next most important step. Oh, and let me note that I did take this clock spring apart, which is why the front face doesn't look the same. But the most important thing to note also is when you get the new clock spring, it's going to have this tab in place. Do not remove that tab. It is factory zeroed. If you remove this tab, you're going to cause yourself a whole lot of headache later. Your ESP lights will start dinging on you, and it's just, you'll never get it true centered. So just leave that on. And that's it for now. We're going to go ahead and get into the meat of the install here. Alright, once you tear off the old clock spring, it's going to come off in one piece with the select knob still attached. Simply, all they do is they screw into these holes on both sides of the clock spring. You can see it right there. And they've got one little electronic connector that runs between the two of them. It comes off of your wiper blade arm and then connects to the blinker arm on the other side. Alright, I got the controls all put back together. You can see that wire just runs across and tucks in. And go ahead and get this thing mounted to the dash. Alright, when you pull the wheel, this is what you're going to be looking at. Your clock spring unit and your control units, minus the yellow tab, of course. You've got a screw down on the lower right side. You've got a screw in on the lower left side. And then up on the top, I don't know if you can see them, there are two tabs that have screws running through them up there. Alright, we got the new clock spring in place. Again, this is what you're going to see if you're taking your old one off at this point. Before I do this, I wanted to show you guys something on the wheel when it concerns getting the airbag out. That's probably the biggest pain in this whole thing. As you can see, the airbag has these 3 clips on it here. 3 loops. The top 2 are squared off. The bottom one's got a little bit of a round to it. How you get those off? If you look at the inside of the steering wheel, where the airbag is going to sit, you've got these clips here. This is the bottom one. It's for the rounded, and then the 2 sides. It doesn't matter. They're all squared off. I don't know why that third one's rounded, but to get to them from the back, best thing to do is take a 90-degree plier and get in there, and you're simply going to insert it while the wheel's still attached, of course. And then just push up and away on those, and the airbag will slide out. You're going to have to hold the airbag with one hand and pry with the other 2 hands. Make sure on that third one you grab the airbag. You don't want it to fall. Like I said, again, there's the bottom one. Simply put the tool in, push in. For the top 2, they're smaller round holes. Just stick it in there and pry away. As you can see, I kind of bent it a little bit while I was prying on it. It does take a little bit of force for the first one. The other 2 are a little easier. Alright, now that we got that all taken care of, when you put the wheel back on with the new one in place, with the old one, you're not going to worry about this when you tear it apart. Don't remove this clip right away. Leave that on and slide it through the hole on the top of the steering wheel. You have to leave that clip in place until the wheel is centered. To center the wheel, you're going to pull these wires through as well. To center the wheel, as I mentioned earlier, you've got that little dot on your steering column, which will line up to an arrow on the wheel itself, as you can see just above the teeth there. It is kind of hard to get it off center because, as you can see inside the teeth, one of them is it's got a little bit of a straight tooth there that will line up with the steering column, but you can get it off center, just letting you know that ahead of time. Alright, once you've got the wheel set back in place and you're comfortable that your wheel alignments are right, which those are pretty close, make sure your wires for the clock spring are pulled through. You've still got the tab on there, and then this little electric connection is pulled out of the way. Just run the bolt through the hole there and just tighten the wheel on up. Once that's done, you can go ahead and pull this and immediately attach the electronic connection, and then we'll attach the airbag after that. Alright, we got that all in place. Electrical connections are out of the way. We pulled the tab and put the connection on. One thing to note, if you're curious, on the bottom, your clock spring simply turns by this little rubber grommet right there that comes through the bottom of the wheel, so make sure that's all good and lined up too. And, you know, give the wheel a little jiggle, make sure everything's lined up good. Everything should be alright. Let's move on to the airbag. As I said before, the bottom of the airbag has the rounded off piece, which is going to go on that clip there. These two clips, they're color coded, yellow and black on the back of the airbag. Just watch the way they only slide in one direction based on the round peg and a square hole here. So just slide those in place, and once that's it, you should be good to go. Once that's all done, we'll put the covers back on, and once you have those clips lined up, just simply give it a snug push on the airbag and the horn. It'll pop right into place. And now that I've got it on, you can see what I was talking about. The two top holes, there's one, there's the other, and then the bottom hole. You can't really see it in the light. The bottom hole down there, once you're trying to get the airbag off initially, those are the three holes you're going to stick your pry bar in to get them out. For the wiring here, you've got these two connectors that go on the bottom. Just keep a mental note when you take them apart. This top one just slides through behind the blinker. Alright, now we finally got that. Slides in behind the blinker assembly there. It connects to the top here. Kind of hard to do with one hand. Alright, and your lower two, they only fit one way because the way the plugs are designed. So you've got the two at the bottom of the clock spring. There's one, and there's the other one. You've got a little black one on the other side, which kind of goes in sideways. Readjust the camera. Kind of goes in sideways. Clip it in right there. Once that's all done, everything's good to go at this point. You can go ahead, if you pulled the fuse off the fuse block for the airbag, go ahead and put the fuse back in, get the battery all connected up, and make sure your annoying dash lights aren't still on from the bad clock spring. Alright, we got everything reinstalled on this one. Go ahead and give you a quick breakdown. The reason for the clock spring failure, which I'm sure a lot of you watching this video probably already know, is anytime you have your top off and it gets wet inside, or for whatever reason you're hosing it down, it gets wet inside, the steering column gets nice and damp, clock springs have a tendency to go out. Sometimes you get lucky. You can use a hair dryer and dry them out real well and they'll work just fine. On my TJ, that's all I've ever done. It's always worked. On the JKs, they seem to be a little more temperamental. Like I said, you can try to dry it out, let it set for a while. Hopefully the sun dries it out. But in some cases, they're just too far gone and you have to actually replace the whole thing. Earlier in the video, I showed you where I'd taken the old one apart. I was trying to clean all the contacts from moisture and get everything fixed that way. It's easy to tear it apart. It's easy to clean them. It's not so easy to put them back together. Those ribbons are practically impossible to rewind unless you just know exactly how they go back in place. I was able to get it rewound and was able to put it back on the Jeep, and it still did not work. So went ahead and decided to just replace it anyways. Last bit of the install, which I didn't show you, is putting the two sides of the covers back over the steering column. For the upper part of the steering column, it's all pretty self-explanatory, but you've got on the bottom of the steering column, to attach to the upper side, you've got a T20 Torx head bolt up in that recess there, and you've got a second one on the other side of the steering wheel by the ignition. That will attach the top piece to the bottom piece. As you can see here, they just kind of snap in place. On the bottom piece, to get it attached, there is a little T20, get in the picture, a little T20 right there on the very bottom of the steering column. And once you've got that all set, you're ready to go. Alright, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope it was informative, and I'll try to do a few more of these.